So in this independent presentation, which I decided to do independently, I decided to measure the true proportion of Democratic plurality California counties. I decided to do this by myself because I am just passionate about this subject, and I'm doing this project in addition to my group project. So we see how California counties voted in 2020. The counties in blue are representative of counties that have a plurality of voters who voted for Joe Biden, the Democratic candidate, and counties in red show at least a plurality of there was at least a plurality of voters who voted for Donald Trump, the Republican nominee candidate. So for data collection, all 58 California counties were recorded in alphabetical order with party affiliation percentages and their spreads. And I used the spread to determine whether the spread and the percentages of voter affiliation in each county to determine whether a county was plurality Democratic or plurality Republican. The sample size was 35, and every fifth county was deleted, then every third left over was deleted. Here we see some of the Democratic counties or Democratic plurality, with the exception of Kern County, which is reliably Republican. Now, here's the question. What is a plurality versus a majority? Some people get these terms mixed up, so let me explain. A plurality happens when one party has the highest percentage of affiliation, but it's below 50%. Case in point, the election of 1824, which is when the two main contenders were Andrew Jackson with the Democratic-Republican Party and John Quincy Adams with the Democratic-Republican Party. Keep in mind, this is the era of good feelings. Only the Democratic-Republican Party existed. So we see here that there were four candidates, split the electoral vote, which meant that Andrew Jackson, who should have won the electoral vote because he had the most, he did not breach 50%. And this is because of the other candidates. So we can say that Andrew Jackson in the election of 1824 had won the plurality. He didn't win the majority. So now, in contrast, the majority is when one party has more than 50% affiliation. Case in point, the election of 1964, which is when we saw the Democratic candidate for re-election, Lyndon Baines Johnson, face off against the Republican candidate, Barry Goldwater. Now we see here that in the popular vote, we see that Lyndon Baines Johnson has 61% of the popular vote, which means that he has a majority of the popular vote, 61%, which is greater than 50%, obviously. So, but Lyndon Baines Johnson did not get a plurality, he got a majority because he had over 50%. A plurality is when you have below 50%, but you have the most. So because for example, we see that in some counties there is let's say there's a 46% Democratic proportion of voters. And then there's a Republican percentage of 43%. So while neither the Democratic Party nor the Republican Party has more than 50% voter affiliation in that county, we can say that the Democratic Party has a plurality because their proportion is higher than all the other parties. So now here's some formulaic information for when we decide to do the confidence intervals. Our parameter is the true proportion of California counties with a plurality Democratic voter base. The population is all 58 California counties. The sample is the 35 that I randomly selected. The name of procedure is one sample z interval for p. Point estimate I calculated was 0.6, and this, which in context is we estimate that 60% of California counties are plurality Democrat. The standard error is 0.083. So now here's our confidence intervals, or should I say my confidence intervals. So for 90%, we are 90% confident that the true proportion of California counties that are plurality Democratic is between 0.463 and 0.737. In context, 46.3 and 73.7% of California counties are plurality Democratic. Now, 95%, we are 95% confident that the true proportion of California counties that are plurality Democratic is between 0.438 and 0.762, 43.8%, 76.2%. And then for 99%, we are 99% confident that the true proportion of California counties that are plurality Democratic is between 0.387 and 0.813, 38.7 and 81.3%. So now here's the reflection. I'm really passionate about politics and data reflected in political polls, and especially during midterms or presidential election cycles. I love watching live coverage of the percent of people who voted for candidate X over candidate Y in a certain state or county. And I also like reading exit polls at the bottom of the screen and the percentage of votes that have come in. In essence, my favorite time to pore over data and numbers is during an election cycle. I already love collecting data about things that I am interested in, so I thoroughly enjoyed collecting data on voter registration proportions per county. I was surprised that based on the voter identification spread, San Diego County is pretty centrist, having a plus 8.5 spread. The proportion of Democrats in San Diego is 8.5% higher than the proportion of Republicans in San Diego. This project helped me understand that as you increase the confidence level, the margin of error is higher. You could be 100% confident that the true proportion of Democratic plurality counties is between 0 and 1, but you could only be 90% confident that the true proportion is between 0.463 and 0.737. As far as relevancy, this is very relevant, especially in election years, when it can help you predict how a state will swing in election cycles based on population. What proportion of counties in Michigan are Democratic or Republican plurality? And once you find that out, which counties of your preferred party have a higher population? Take Georgia in 2020, for example. Most counties in Georgia are Republican plurality, yet 2 Democratic senators were able to win because of the smaller proportion of Democratic plurality counties that were weighed more heavily on population. This all sounds like political jargon, but it's just so fascinating to me, and I really, really want to do a project independently in addition to my group project because I'm just so passionate about political science and trends. And so, in case you wanted to look at the sources, in case you want to check it out, I have the source for the San Diego Union Tribune, how San Diego County voted in the 2020 election, the Wikipedia article for the 2020 United States presidential election in California, the Wikipedia list of counties in California. This is where I got the voter identification data, and that graph for the election of 1824, in case you were curious and you want to check it out. So that is my presentation, and hopefully you weren't bored by all the political jargon. Yeah, thank you for watching the presentation.